Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Ultra Super Vegito and basically, yeah, to cut a long story short, what's he do, how's he do it, and is he any good with his new plat. So we have Ultra Super Vegito, a pretty awesome unit I would say. Was really great upon release. I think he was the second Ultra, first Ultra. I think Vegito was the first Ultra. But Vegito was a big release, big time release, and for me there was definitely, I would say at the very minimum, an incredibly strong, powerful unit upon release. He was very overwhelming, very dominating, very domineering, and I think that's always something that is well respected. So I think he was very good. He did seem to phase out pretty easily, which I think for me, always seems to be a little bit disappointing. But yeah, I think overall, like if I look at units in the history of Legends, I think Vegito had a good reputation as being one that wasn't too overwhelmingly strong, but was pretty good, like pretty welcoming, pretty good, pretty reliable, and yeah, just in general was a good, strong unit. So in terms of the just general functionality of Vegito, he draws the ultimate arts card, Spread Divider next, restores his own health by 20, and then his ki by 50 on main ability. Applies attribute upgrade, minus 50% to enemy sustained CUT effects to self for 20 timer counts, restores own vanishing gauge by 100%. Restores, inflicts all enemies with attribute downgrade, minus 5 to slash damage, and just in general has your stock standard kind of solid main leader skill. Ultra Resonance, obviously the usual with your ultras, they have Ultra Resonance. He applies the following effects himself when battle starts: 110% damage inflicted, damage reduction of 50%. When he enters the battlefield, he gets 20% damage inflicted and reduces damage received by a further 20% for 15 timer counts, which is pretty good. In terms of everything else, so every time he uses a strike or blast card, he restores his own ki by 5, increases his arts card draw speed for 4 timer counts, inflicts all enemies with the attribute downgrade of 15% to damage received, which I think is pretty good. Restores his own health by 30% only once when it reaches 0, which is also great. In terms of his other passive, Stronger Together, he knocks enemies back to long range if the cover is performed against the strike arts. Restores his own unique gauge by 10% every time the enemy uses a strike or blast arts card while he's on the battlefield. When the enemy's attack is over, he'll restore his own health by 10%, activates up to 7 times, which is pretty good. And then he'll also restore his own unique gauge by 20%. He will shorten ally sub count by 1 when charging forward with a strike art. If his own unique gauge is at 30% or more, he will consume the entire unique gauge to counter the enemy's tap shot or blast shot, dealing impact damage to the enemy. This damage from the attack is treated as if it's a strike art. Any abilities that apply to strike arts card beforehand will also apply to the counter as well. Very important to take note. When the counter activates, he'll restore his own ki, give himself a double up to strike damage inflicted, and then he'll also nullify enemy special action cover changes as well, which I think overall is pretty damn important, at least from my end. Obviously, overall, I think what is super important, to take note of is that I think he and his counter mechanic are obviously a little bit outdated by the standards of ultras nowadays. But what is super important to take note of is that doesn't mean that he's not good or anything. He's still absolutely fantastic. He just has a little bit of hold up when it comes to his overall performance, because that kind of limitation that he has, which I think is ultimately really notable. In terms of his green card, I think that's his best part personally. It restores 40 key, nullifies unfavorable element factors, which I think is really, really good. And then of course on top of that as well, we also obviously have the drawing a blast arts card next, plus 20% to damage inflicted, and the fact that it minuses 3 to arts cost. What's best about the what's best about this arts cost is the fact that it basically allows him to really deal with potential red units with relative ease. His blue card deals massive slice damage, restores his own key by 30 upon activation. He'll draw 4 new cards when you have 3 or fewer cards on hit, and he'll deal supreme slice damage and give 40% up to ultimate damage, and nullify endurance when enemy's health reaches 0 with this ultimate art. And he also nullifies unfavorable element factors if you have a defeated ally, which I think personally for me is obviously pretty damn good. So overall, I think for me he is a great unit. When you look at him and you look at how things come together, and you look at how everything kind of pulls together for him as a unit, I think he is great when he first came out. His ultra equip is big for him. The huge health, the huge strike, the huge defense, the damage guard up 180% or 130%, the inflicted damage up 180%. These bring him in line with the current standards. It's not like these are just there for show. These are big upgrades, and they're to bring those baseline stats that he has into a good kind of space, which I think is very important. You need to have that strong baseline. You need to have all of that really to be able to kind of function. So I think that is really very important, and it's something that is so crucial. So even before we talk about the third, kind of functionality of him and that third slot, that damage guard and everything is so important anyway. So, and then obviously his third and fourth, on the entry, the drawing up to 2 cards, the health up, the key up, the nullification of elemental disadvantage, all makes him very tanky, which is what you want. You can switch him in so many times to tank, and he'll do an amazing job. So it's one of those things where he just continues to do amazing stuff. And then obviously if you have him at 7 stars or higher on cover change, he reduces the enemy's key, which is absolutely crucial now. Those key reduction abilities are so important in being able to give you a good setup for the rest of your turn, because now units will just combo you down. You just won't be able to deal with anything. You will just not be able to deal with their oppressive kind of nature if you don't have them kind of buckled down with key when you first enter. They'll just combo you. So I think that's very important. But overall, honestly, super duper happy with everything. I think really good unit. And that's it from me. Bye.